We're going to call the meeting of the Whitman Historic Commission to order at 7:40 after having read the minutes by ourselves. So the start of this will drive us crazy. All right, so let's start with the minutes, accepting the minutes.
I move to accept the minutes that Michelle presented with the two amendments that we thought needed to be made.
Which were involving correspondence.
Yes. It was number 4 under old business and number 3 under new business.
Do we have a quorum? Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you want to second it?
I'll second it. Yeah, I second it.
Aye.
It's unanimous to accept as corrected. Do you want to do your report on?
Sure. I'm passing out
the finances.
Sure. I'm passing out the treasurer's report. There has been no change other than the $200 donation is now reflected that we received from the Whitman Mothers Club. So that leaves us in the general fund with $500. In our general gift account with $1559.52. And in the Gold Star Sign gift account, $935.77. So I told you about the $200 donation at the last meeting. I just hadn't deposited yet and incorporated it into our numbers, but now it is up to date.
Okay. Keep this out because I want to discuss when we get to the memorial for Marie. So under Mike, I think you're going to be the person who's going to be moving tonight. You move to accept the treasurer's report.
I move to accept the treasurer's report.
I second.
Aye.
All in favor? It's unanimous.
Aye.
Aye.
So, thank you both. I feel like this is a big relief that we have. We're up to date. And in case you have any desire to get to minutes or whatever that you don't have, I have this, and I'm putting them all in the things that we need. The 3 things: the agenda, the minutes, and the financials for the open meeting law are always going to be on top of this file cabinet, and I'll mark them on the outside, but they're clearly marked on the inside.
I do have a question on the minutes. Will I get a corrected copy of it so I can file it downstairs in the
Absolutely.
Yep. Do I have to sign
I'll print them for everybody but Shell.
We're the only board that actually signs it. The secretary can sign it if you're comfortable, but if you're...
I'm fine with that.
Okay, good.
So I'll just send a copy to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so under correspondence, the first piece of correspondence, and I don't think I need to read the whole thing, but the first one is to Ann Holbrook, and it's accepting her as a full member by the selectmen. And that's from September 27th, so that was after our last meeting, so that was full. And then the change on, again, September 27th, the changes to the Historic Commission membership. That means that June O'Leary has accepted emeritus and has stepped into that position, which will be an associate membership. So we have 2 associates now because we voted that. We voted and it was accepted by the selectmen. We have 2 associates and emeritus. And emeritus is not considered a full membership. It's considered
an advisory or a ceremonial position, yeah.
Right.
So she will not be voting on issues if we needed a quorum. We would need one of our regular associate members.
That's right.
Great, thank you.
That's right. So, and part of it, she's very happy with it. And in the last couple of weeks, she's talked to me several times, giving me background history of things that we've been doing, nothing that we're voting on, but a lot of it's been extremely helpful. So I'm glad that she accepted that. And then that, I think, is it for the immediate correspondence. I have other correspondence, but I think it comes in under the agenda. So let's move right along because we could really...
Can I just clarify?
Sure.
Ann her work is now permanent.
She's a full member. Full member, yeah. Okay, so the demolition delays are staying exactly I haven't done anything more with them. However, under Peaceful Meadows memorabilia, I want to visit that again because it comes in under that, under new business.
Yeah.
Because there was a discussion about this, and I do think that this is something we need to move forward to putting on the warrant.
I have some material, and I don't know how long ago it's from, but it was from our board here, and I just put it aside in a box. So I'm in the next month. I'll pull it out.
Because I'm going to be updating it too, because it's becoming more pertinent because of things that are happening in town. And I think I have some demolition delays too that I picked up that if anybody wants to read them, but I've got the ones from Hingham and East Bridgewater. And the building inspector who just stepped down in East Bridgewater said that the East Bridgewater one isn't strong enough, but the Hingham one is incredibly strong. So the yin and the yang here of which stronger or not. So I think we can probably come up with one, at least for a delay, so that we have some understanding of things that can be taken down.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I have an agenda?
No. What the heck, you know?
I always ask. I'm thinking, I'm lost. I don't know where you are.
No, I'm sorry.
No worries. There isn't an agenda in your folder? Did you give her her folder?
She didn't have a folder.
Yeah, I did look through the one we had filled out, but
maybe I didn't put one in. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
Not a problem. It just seems like this table is just like it's a wash in paper.
Yes.
Okay, the house plaque program. Now I do have that in the folder. There's a plaque in there. And I have talked to Harley Design.
Where are they out of?
He is out of Situate now, but he was out of Rockland.
Okay.
And the other man didn't present anything, but Carly Design has done plaques before.
Yep.
So you have a plaque in your folder that shows you what he designed. That's very similar to what we had, and that's how it can come up. So
is it this one here, or is it the wooden one?
No,
I'm sorry. One. I see.
So those that's a totally different thing. That's all the flyers and everything else that we need to talk about. But I sent him.
I see yours here.
So let's talk about that for a second,
sure.
Because those flyers that I put in there, your stapled group, if you put those together, it looks to me like in the past they first started to do brass plaques.
We did. We found that we didn't get that much interest based upon the cost.
Okay.
So that's why we thought, and we did have a little bit more, but we still did generate a lot of interest. That's why we went to the wooden version of it, because it was less costly.
Okay.
But it was still available to people if they asked for the brass plaque.
So under that heading, I then looked at the wood plaque ones, and what I thought from the brass plaque, probably that the brass plaque was going to be too expensive and people would get nervous about it. The wooden one, the flyer on the wooden one, if you look at it, it says you have to look up your own stuff.
Yes.
So this is something that when I was talking to him, he gave me a quote, and I don't know if we have to send this out to. So he gave me a price for 20 signs, and 12 by 16 ovals, 1/2 an inch, MDO, whatever that is, painted white, silk screen, Town of Whitman, Historic Commission, and the inline border, your choice of lettering color. With stainless mounting screws, your cost would be $30 each.
Oh, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Very reasonable.
And then 40 of these would be $27. And then to put the date in or whatever would be $35.
Okay.
So
$35 for each because it's individual? Each date that you have to put in? Yes. So it's
because
30 plus 35.
And they'd have to...
Right, individualize it. Yep.
So... With this is going to I have to mishmash the whole agenda because it all melts together with with this stuff that I went to him, got this quote, and then when I was writing up what I hope will be the intent letter to go out, it's very simple, and it simply goes after each of the things that they're looking for with the state. And one of the things that that they were talking about is how do you have to survey the buildings, and it's mandated, and I've been going to their workshops and everything else. My suggestion, I found out last week that when we all got the thing from, I think everybody got it from Elaine Bergeron about the CPA money. Mm-hmm. I have to file something tomorrow.
That's the deadline.
Yeah.
It wasn't the 12th?
No.
Okay.
No, it's tomorrow. But I pointed out to him, I sent him an email and said, I'm a little bit confused. First of all, you didn't post the deadline until after our last meeting, and we have to have another meeting to be able to make a decision, and we have 1 day to do it in. And I'm like, God, I don't want to let that money go. I think we should be hitting it for something. So this is what I propose to do. And I throw things out. It doesn't mean that I'm 100% hooked on this. But I think it would be a good idea for us to file one tomorrow asking for money to get the plaques. And then we can give them to the people to have the dates in. They get to pay the date. But it then links into the state application, because we would have the 40 houses.
Or however many they do, yeah.
Yes, and we would give them to the people that were surveyed.
Yep.
And that way each one that's surveyed gets the plaque. And it would then make us a lot more solid. And when I was doing the letter, I went through the survey as the way it was. All of the buildings that we need to survey are already designated. And they were designated because they were putting them up for districts, like around the park. Mm-hmm. And they have a lot of the work there. But if we have them surveyed and we get the information, then we've got the information. We give the plaque to the people who have already had the survey done. Yeah. And that way I can write it up tomorrow that that's what we're looking for. What do you think?
And the initial one, this is the pre-application. Right. So it doesn't have to be too extensive anyways. Right. It's just the idea of what you want to present. Right.
Because we have 1 day to turn it around, and I was thinking, okay, well, we could put in that we want to file the 9 that were suggested for National Register. Yeah. And then I talked to the Mass Historic Commission, and they said that should be, that can certainly be part of the grant money that we're going for. And so, to me, the scope, and trying to get a scope to do everything the way the state wants it, is the scope is, okay, do the survey, get them listed, take what extra money we have, go after the National Trust, or the National, what is now the National Register, was the National Trust last time I worked with them. Get them listed, and then get the plaques in, so that then you have more people aware of the survey, and then their houses are on it. Yeah.
Molly, did you say that once how much was he going to charge for the lettering? So say we purchased the 40.
$35. So $27. So if we go to 40 plaques, it goes down to $27.
Oh, wow.
So it would be $27 a plaque. And then they'd go back to him with the dates. And we can either, tell them that they pay for the date, but we do the resource. We give them the research, we give them the survey paper, we give them the plaque, and that if they want the plaque, we send it to him, and then he bills them.
Oh, and did he give you a price to put the date on?
Yeah, $35 per.
Oh, it was. I got you. Yeah.
Do you want a motion that?
Yeah. What do you think?
I think it's great. Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay. I'm like trying to think of, okay, we're so ensconced in this other grant that I don't want to lose this money.
And this isn't a huge one. This isn't a whole other.
No. And it's not something that, and that's one of the things in looking at what they have for the CPA, that they don't want it to be one that matches something else that they're doing in the town. Mm-hmm. So,
just for those 40, that's $1,400. So,
yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, good.
So I move that we authorize Molly to proceed with the pre-application with the Community Preservation Committee, and put forth a proposal on the signs for the house signs that she was planning to tie in with the surveys.
I second the motion.
Great, thank you. I'd love to see all the houses around the park have it.
And especially since many of them, a good many of them have been already surveyed. You know what I'm saying? They just lack that identification that they are historic.
Right, exactly. Okay, so that's that. I'd like to take, the Whitman Historical Rock Tour. I've got the pamphlets in there. That's what's, so instead of spending any time on this today, I'd like you guys to read those and take out, not right now, you can take them home, read them, and look at it and see what you think, because I think some of it is just extraordinarily hard and not well done. Like
you're talking about this side here with the 1 through 6?
Yeah, the 1 through 6. I've got several pamphlets in there. I've got the plaque one. I've got the plaque on the rocks ones. I think I've got.
I think though when we started this project many years ago, we were each assigned a particular marker, and we were supposed to do much more of an in-depth historical look at it. And that's what we were going to approach Norma about. I don't know if anyone did.
And I did.
You did?
Yeah, I actually got a response.
So what happened?
So I contacted
Wait, who's Norma?
She was a former member, co-chair, Norma Gardner. But she was helping with it.
Yeah, and I remember it was, who was the other person? Who was the chair?
Marie and Norma.
Oh, it was Marie and Norma. Oh my goodness, that's right. It's so long ago. Yeah, so I contacted Norma and I asked her. So we, every member at the time took 1 or 2 of the monuments in town because we did them all. I know we did. And everybody had to submit an essay either through the computer and email it to them, or, and I think Norma was handling it because I feel like I remember her being the one you had to email or submit it, physical copy to her. So Norma actually got back to me just before the meeting. I have not had time to read all the emails, but she does list a lot here. But in her original email, she just said that when Marie became the chair, she said she passed along everything that she had, whether it was files or emails, to Marie. But in that original email, she also said, but I do still have some things left on my computer, and I'll send you everything I have.
Okay, good.
So she did send me like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so it's probably a good amount of them.
Does she have on those, can you tell, so the one, you'll see that there's one of the sheets that I gave you in that little bunch of sheets. They have the rocks, they don't have the address. They have like, it's on South Street.
Right, it's a general area, but not a specific
I'd
area.
like to see if we can't get those before we make a brochure, because I do think that that's something that would be really good for the anniversary.
Yeah.
Although I have another thought for the anniversary, but I think that would be something that would be good for the anniversary. The plaques would be good for the anniversary. So I'm looking for projects that we can do along with what we do with surveying for the anniversary. I think they're having trouble coming up with stuff in Rockland. I'm not sure.
The Dyer did offer, and John Galuzzo did offer to help with some of the celebrations in Rockland first and then Whitman for the 150th. Because Rockland's is the year before Whitman. So.
Through the Dyer?
To help, I'm saying. The Dyer wasn't going to do it. They were just going to provide whatever support.
Okay. So
East. I mean, we still have a little lead time, but East Bridgewater just did their 200th, and Hanson did their 1820. What's that? Their 200th and 20. So those two towns, neighboring towns, just had celebrations within the last 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, we haven't even set up a committee yet.
We haven't yet.
Okay. Yeah, no, I know that's one of the things that I have to do is write a letter saying that we're
interested.
But I'm afraid if I say that we're interested, we're going to have to be done. And quite truthfully, I need to get out of this office sometime. Although I'm happy with what we've been able to get done. Now I've lost my pen. If I don't use the paper, I use the pen. Okay, so if you guys would just take a look at it and see what you think is extraordinary and not, I'm hoping to get. It depends on how far I get with these two grants. Although we have till February to do one for the state,
right?
And so again, going a little out of in the state. You have in the folder that I gave you a list of all of the workshops that they offer, and they're all by Zoom. Mm-hmm. And they're very interesting, and they're right down the path of what we need to do for the survey, because it's been it was 2015 was the last survey. And so it's worth it to, if you can, go in on one of those, because they're very, very interesting as to how they do it. But
do you know if they're taped by a chance so that you can watch?
Yes, I get them. So that was my next question: is do you all want them?
I'd be interested in the October 10th one, Historic Resources Survey. That looks like it's about. Okay.
Yep. So yes, I've got. I've done one with. I've done the Macros one, and I've done. I did one on. I think, I did the September 11th, I did the September 28th, and the October 10th.
So do you have it by virtue of the fact that you signed in? Is that why?
Yes, and they send it to me, so I'll forward them to you guys
that would be great.
You can see them. They're a little tight on the writing of it, but it's hard to see. This is the problem with having a political mind. I'm listening to people in the hallway. All right. I'm trying to think of what it was that she said something that I wanted to pass on to you guys, because I talked to her and I asked questions at the last one, and
this is the person from the state.
Yeah, her name is Jen Doherty, and that's who is doing the workshops, and she's the contact person for this. Mm-hmm. And she definitely said, one of the people asked, what happens if you don't have the money already up front? And she said, well, you should still apply and everything, but she said if you have the money, you're better off. And she also said that part of the thing with the survey, that the federal government actually mandated these surveys back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And so that was interesting to me too, so that the way I did the right thing, which is in write-up that goes with, thank you, Michael typed out for me the application.
Yep.
So why don't we take a look at the write-up, because that's...
Is it included in our packet or no?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's just a plain sheet of paper. It's this one. It says the town of Whitman. It starts with the town of Whitman.
Oh, it's a typewritten.
That's typewritten.
You're going to have to just give me a second to find it. So
just so you know, before you start reading it, it sounds very simple to me. However, I think that they're probably going to be very tired of the things that people are writing up, because they can be very wordy.
Yep.
So I went to the criteria of what they wanted, mm-hmm. and it's all in there.
Oh, I see it. I found it. Yep. Thank you. Do you want us to take a moment to read it over?
Yes, please.
Do you want me to pause the tape while we read it over?
Yeah.
Okay. We're restarting.
So, one of the things that Jen Doherty had mentioned to me is that they prefer that we not do the surveys ourselves. So, which is why I put in the bottom line down here is that we're a group of volunteers, etc. The way I wrote it, up, my thought pattern behind it is that the fact that we've done it before. We have the 9 that were suggested for the National Register, because she mentioned that. And one of the things I asked her was, is there a cost to the application for the National Register? And she said, not really. But she said where the cost comes in is the surveyors.
The research, yeah.
And if we've got the research, one of the things that I found in reading the research that they did in the past, they did almost everything off the internet. Mm-hmm. They didn't use the Dyer. They didn't use any of the things that we have here. They didn't do any further research. They just did the internet. And I think that that's something that if we get this money, or even if we just use the $20,000 and go for another group to do it, that's something that we need to make sure that there's more meaty stuff than what we've got on the survey sheets. But the fact that they have, the thing that they've really done well is they in the 9 that they have for the National Register, they want to do block grants. So do you know what block grants are? I know you do.
I'm not sure if I do. I know I've heard of them.
So when we did the survey in Rockland, the first thing we did is what we call a windshield survey. We went through the town and we designated certain neighborhoods that had, like, this neighborhood has 20 antique capes, 5 bay capes. This neighborhood has 3 Italianate houses. Where is encroaching development going after it? So, like, the 2 buildings that just came down.
So the most vulnerable.
Yes. What's the most
properties.
vulnerable? Where? Yeah. And so where we would want to start is around the park because of being within the range of the train station. Mm-hmm. And
even South Ave, that right in the general vicinity.
All
of the
that
train.
area, and that's where the planking was done. I mean, we have way too many rocks and not enough buildings left. So at any rate, that's what I was doing, was saying, okay, we've got this. And the reason I put in the other things is, to me, the toll house is wonderful. However, how many times have you heard about the Tiffany windows that are a Lafarge? I mean, we really have to get the history of the town out. So that's why I wrote it up. Do you think it's too simple?
No, I think, based upon the last one, I think this is just perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it okay with you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, I did like the ending where you said, this is why we decided to
That's why
have professionals do
I
it.
changed it around a couple of times and thought, no, it's better to end it with, okay, we're a board. So you've typed up the other, and I've got this.
Yeah.
I'll send it off tomorrow.
That's great.
And then we're in early with that.
Yeah.
Then I will also tomorrow do the CPA one, and where do I take that?
There are directions. I believe
I've got them. It's here. I've got them. So
I believe it has to be in their box by a certain hour.
Well, so when I talked to Elaine, she said,
That's
well, it
what
has
last
to be in at midnight the 17th. And I said, that's not what it says.
Yeah.
The directions are not good.
Okay.
So I contacted him. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry.
Ryan.
Ryan, thank you. I contacted him and said, this is what we're finding. You came out with the time range in between our 2 meetings. We have to have the meetings for me to be able to make a decision.
Sure.
And you're giving us 1 day. And he said he wouldn't change the timing on it, but he would take it for next year. So I said, okay. So meanwhile, Stephen Burke had gone over it with me because it wasn't coming through off of the email because there was something wrong with the computer. So he looked at it and he said, this is not a good application. And he said, what's happening is you have to fill it out on here and then print it out. So I said, okay, I can do that. And so we got that arranged.
Like a fillable application. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have to print it out. You have to do it in 10 copies.
Sure.
I don't think they're asking for 10 copies of this, but I'll check it again before I send it in.
No, I don't believe they do. And if I remember the last time for the full application that we submitted, I thought it had to go through the clerk's office. They stamped it in, and they put it in the mailbox, and that way it was time-stamped.
Yep. And this one,
But I didn't know about the pre-application.
no,
It's
I
a
don't
little
think so.
more casual. Yeah.
Yeah, I read that. So I'll do those 2 tomorrow.
You get a busy day tomorrow.
Actually, yeah. Now that you mention it, but I feel like I've been up here a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, those 2 are done. That's done. It says attach a 1-page typed narrative statement. Be sure to address the 5 selection criteria, which I did.
Yeah.
for pre-applications.
This is the MHS one, MHC one, yeah.
Yeah, I did that. Okay, so it doesn't say anything about how many other copies.
I believe it was just the one.
I'll shoot an email over to Jen about it just to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that. That's that. Now we get down to the nitty-gritty stuff. You two have not heard the story. Michael has heard a good portion of the story about Peaceful Meadows. So last week I came, a week ago, 2 weeks ago Monday, I came in here and I was here this happened like 4 times in the last 2 weeks where I've walked in the door and the phone's rung and it's been something that's gone, ah! And it was a woman named
Carol McSweeney.
Carol McSweeney, thank you. And you're
I have heard the story.
Yeah.
No,
and so Carol McSweeney was the past owner of Peaceful Meadows, and she called to say that she had paraphernalia and history stuff from Peaceful Meadows, and she would like to have it go to somewhere, and the Dyer had contacted her to get this stuff, but they hadn't come and picked it up.
No ice cream. No ice cream.
No, I know. It was you that made the comment about it. Somebody made a comment about, did you get any ice cream? So, at any rate, she said the only problem was that it had to go by Thursday. And so I said, okay. And it was Monday, and it's like 11 o'clock, and it's pouring rain. And I said, I'll be right over. So I went over, and long and the short of it is, we got it. So when I went downstairs, I went to the selectman's office and said, I need to know. Mary Beth was on a phone call, as was Kathy. And I said, I need to know when I can get into the armory, because if we have to pick this stuff up, I want it to go to the society. So this part of it is interesting to me. The immediate reaction was, you'll have to have permission from the selectman. Just park that in your brains. So I said, okay, thank you. And could you just find out when they get off the phone when I can get into the armory? So I go over there. I'm there talking with Carol, and the first thing that happened is I'm going through the door. A man comes out who I've never seen before. He said, oh, you must be with the Historic Commission. And I thought, oh my God, somebody got it right. And I said, yes, I'm with the commission. And he said, oh, she's waiting for you. So I went in. And a few minutes later, these 3 men come walking across the parking lot, and she said, oh, this is good because this is Mr. Hornstra. So John Hornstra walks in with his son, John Hornstra, and she introduces us, and lo and behold, he gets my name right. And then I'm like, I think you went to school with some of my relatives. He said, Karen Schnabel? And I said, yeah. And he said, yep. He said, I was in her class. Well, actually, it was in my brother-in-law's class, but he knew both my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. So we talked. And so. Then he said, how do you feel about demolition delays? And I said, well, I think you're asking, are we going to give you trouble with demolition? And he said, that's exactly what I'm asking for. I said, if I remember correctly, you're from Hingham, right? And he said, yeah. And I said, we don't have Hingham. And I said, you're going to have to go to the building inspectors. But I said, I can't, in all honesty, say that I'm not going to put it in front of town meeting, and that the commission isn't going to put it in front of town meeting on the warrant this year, because it's a necessary thing. And he said, no, that's fine. He said, I'm 100% for the history, maintaining the history. And he said, so I don't have a problem when I'm waiting for this. He said, I don't have a problem with you taking this stuff. But if we put in a restaurant, which is what we're hoping to do, I want to have an area that's history related. Can we get some of this back? And I said, absolutely. But I didn't say what I don't want it to do is I don't want it to go into the town hall. So he said, okay. So he said, fine, no problem. Then I'm looking at all this stuff, and I said to her, can you identify who all these people are in all these pictures? Right. 7 boxes of stuff we got.
That's necessary.
Yeah. And she said, I'll do all of it. She said, I'll do all the identification, I'll pack it, I'll put it in my truck, and I'll deliver it to the armory. All you have to do is give me the time.
Wow.
And I'm like, Yeah, I was so excited. So I get back here, and I went to the selectman's office, and Lori hadn't mentioned it to Mary Beth or to Kathy. Kathy came out, and then Mary Beth came out. And in that conversation, I said to them, we need to know when we can get in the armory, and it has to be by Thursday. So Mary Beth said, have you talked to Rich Rosen? And I said, why would I talk to Rich Rosen? And she said, because he's the one who moved it. And I said, oh, I had heard it was Todd and the fire chiefs that moved it. And she said, no, Richie Rosen moved it. And he put it in the armory, and he was the one who had the key. And I said, do you know where he is? She said, well, I think there's about this much space left in the armory. So and then the response from all three of them was, you're going to have to get permission from the selectmen. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because that sentence is absolutely inaccurate. And I want you to think about this in any of the situations where you run into history, and you probably are aware of this. It was a private collection. The town didn't own it. Mm-hmm. I'm in the process of getting it so that the town does own it. But I don't want it in the commission because we aren't the ones who are going to maintain it. Where? You know, when she called me, I said, so does it have the 2 cow heads? and she said, no, it doesn't have the 2 cow heads. They used to have these 2 huge cow heads.
They're still out there.
Yeah. So at any rate, I called Richie Rosen, and the long and the short of it is he cleaned out a room in his office, and she delivered the things the next day. Now, one of the things that happens is the next day she called me and said, I'm really nervous about this. I don't think I should give it to you. And I said, why? And she said, I called Rosen Realty, and the secretary there knew nothing about it. And I said, okay. So there are several points to this long story. I said, give me an hour. I'll call you back. So I called over there, and I got the secretary, and I explained who I was, and I said, I talked to Richie yesterday, and he said that they should have everything delivered to your place, but now she's nervous because you don't know anything about it. And she said, oh yeah, I do. And I said, you do? And she said, yeah. And she said, he's cleaned out the office, and it's supposed to go under lock and key, and I have the lock. And she said, and nobody can get in here unless I'm here or he's here. And I said, fine. So is it okay for me to have her deliver it? And she said, yes. So I called her back, and I said, no sweat. She was confused. You know, I said, just like I was confused when you first talked to me, she was confused. She's ready for you. They cleaned out a room. It'll be safe. Nobody can get in, and it'll stay with the society, and it'll go to John Campbell's, whatever happens with John Campbell's. So she said, great. And so now where I made a mistake is I haven't followed up with Richie Rosen to make sure it was delivered, but I believe it is because I think otherwise I would have heard from both of them.
Who's Richie Rosen?
So he's the one who owns McWiggins and the patio, and he's a beekeeper and a realtor and a developer, and where Elaine lives, that's one of his developments.
Where Michael lives, that's one of his developments.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that. So is that really one of his?
That was one of his. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was maybe Steve Egan's. Yeah. So at any rate, when I talked to Hornstra, interestingly enough, I said to him, "We're so happy that you've got this and that it's going to stay the same way." Yada yada yada. And he said, "I am so excited about how this town supported me." And he said, "I'll tell you, I didn't think I was going to get it." He said, "I was sitting next to a developer on one side, Egan, and on the other side, another ice cream shop."
Yeah.
And he said, "I didn't think I was going to get it." And he said, I'm thrilled. And he said, "We have great plans, but," he said, "I am going to have to demolish one of the buildings." And I said, "I'm not surprised. It's going to be the cow barn, I think."
Yeah.
So
the cow barn, the big.
Yeah, behind it.
Yeah.
I saw them working on it. I keep seeing them working on it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what they're doing. I'll stroll over.
Just painting.
So maybe that's not the one he's going to destroy.
Yeah,
I don't know, but he's going to demolish something. So today I went down to the assessor's office to write the letters that we had talked about before to send them, and I've got this out here just in case you want to look at it. Michael's seen it, but that's the registration of them.
Yeah.
They have not filed the addresses for their stuff to go with the assessors yet. So I wanted to send it to the women who bought the place across the street as well. And they said we're flummoxed because they haven't sent all the stuff in yet. So all of what you're looking at there, Michael, is another piece of property.
Okay.
I've got everything clipped by the properties because I was doing that while I was writing up what needed to go in. Okay, so at least you know where that's going. So the reason that I did this is the way I did it is a society. It should go into a museum. The type of stuff that they've got should go into a museum. It shouldn't be.
Yeah, they're objects.
Yes. And as long as it didn't come into the town hall, and as long as we didn't take ownership of it, then it can be moved around correctly. And one of the things that I think we should consider, because in the past week since that happened, I've had 2 or 3 people who have said that they want to go after, different groups in the town want to go after the Santander Bank. They want it for the senior center. They want it for the museum. They want it for any number of things. And to me, what I would love to see happen is if somehow or another they were able to get the Santander, but from what I heard today, I don't think that's going to happen. If they should get the Santander and they put the senior center in there, we could certainly take over the senior center, and that could be a decent museum. I mean, it doesn't have to be as big as the Santander, but they're also starting an Elaine's in that group, Friends of the Elderly. So everything is kind of interesting because the amount of people being born and the amount of people dying, there are more dying than are being born. So, nobody's quite looking at that yet. So I happen to be in the group that's dying, so what the heck? Okay, so we're down to, those are the items stored. But I think one of the things to keep your ears open, because I think it would be really great if we could get John Campbell's collection somewhere for the celebration. Wouldn't that be something big? So that to me.
Here's another question, and it's just not for today. It's to ponder.
Am I opening? No.
Okay. It's okay.
If somebody decides to,
I think. Yeah, I've got a question for you too. Yeah, Richard. Okay. So now we're down to the Marie Layler, I think.
Sure.
So this is going to be a tough one. I met with Ken Layler and
Bruce
Martin, and you talk much faster than I do. That's the whole problem. You talk much.
I talk way too fast. Don't worry.
So I met with them a couple of weeks ago, and I went across and stood in front of the Venus before they came and looked at it. And when you look at the front of the town hall, it's very clear that there was at one time a plan. And the only thing that throws off the plan is somebody put a white spruce in on the corner, and I believe it was the DPW, and nobody knows why they did it. But everything matches across, and so the only thing that's missing is the sugar maple that went down.
Yeah.
So Bruce came in, and Ken was there, and Ken measured out where he wants the bench, and we agreed that where the tree went down is exactly in between one bench that's already there and the bench that Ken wants to put in, and he's going to pay for the whole thing. So Bruce said that he can get one. He suggested that we get it as soon as possible. And it would be, bald. They would put it in. They would do the whole thing. And if we got it while it was leaved, it still had leaves on it, it would certainly be better and better looking. And that he could get a good sized tree for $400. So today I got a text message from Ken asking me. He said that he had run into Bruce, and Bruce wanted to know what we were doing, and I had told him when we were meeting. So I called Bruce, and in the meantime, I had heard from June, and they've decided to do the same thing for John Campbell.
Where?
They're going to do theirs in the park.
Okay.
So they decided that they could give us $100 for it instead of paying for the whole thing. But when I look at what we've got here under this money from the Mothers Club, I think we should do this, and there's several reasons that I think we should do it. The first is I think that it's a good thing for Marie, and it's a good thing for Ken, and it stops, the expansion of the whole thing. That's the first part. And the second part is I think that there was enough consternation about the museum and enough arguing back and forth of a misunderstanding of what a commission does and what a society does, that if we have his tree in the park and we put the tree for the commission on the government property, I think it can stop any further discussion of this. I think we need to put it to an end because it's up to the society to do the museum. Even if the town agrees to it, it's the society that maintains it. We don't have the capability of maintaining it. And we shouldn't. Under a governmental body, we shouldn't. At least that's the way I feel. And I'm certainly happy to listen to anything. And I'm not 100% into this, but I think the tree is a good idea. Yeah. And it brings us. It brings us. It's like the minutes and the agenda. We've got that done, and we get a memorial to Marie, and hopefully that puts an end to.
Yeah. In light of trying to bring resolution to this, I think that's fine. The only thing, I really believe the DPW should be buying the tree. They're not going to now because they were the ones who were going to replace it anyway.
Right. They weren't going to replace it.
I was told they were going to replace it. And
really?
Mm-hmm.
I was told they weren't.
Well,
but you have a better idea.
No, and I was told I asked in a light conversation that they were going to replace it when it just happened. So I wasn't a definitive yes or no. But again, if it means spending $300 to resolve it and to get everything,
I think right now, I may be 100% wrong, but I've gotten to the point of with the work that I'm doing here, I feel like picking battles.
No, that's what I'm saying. If it puts everything to bed, and it's a tribute to Marie, who was a member of our board, and
did good stuff.
Exactly, and we were going to buy a plaque anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? So, do you want? What do you want from us? Do you want a motion? Not with a dollar amount because you don't know the exact dollar amount yet, but to proceed with the purchase of the tree.
Yes.
And
I thought he was buying the tree. He's not.
No, he's buying the bench.
He's buying the bench, but
I would still ask
the bench and the concrete and the plaque on the back of the bench, and he got.
I would still request if the Friends of the Park would make the $100 donation. Just tell them we'd be tickled with that.
I did already. Yeah, I said, as long as we vote yes to it. And I told Bruce that I would call him tomorrow or send him an email if we voted yes. And he said he would go down and they could do that. Now, one of the things that I think we should do is that when it goes up, if we wait till spring and put the plaque on it, because I think right now everybody in this town, right, with the special town meeting and everything else, everybody's stretched, I think, to the nines. I think I talked to him about how do we make this a memorial tree. And he said that there's a band that you can get that goes around the tree.
Who's this you asked?
Bruce.
Bruce, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I should have said
that's
that.
Okay.
And he said, and they work really well, and they expand, and he said it would expand far enough for the trees to the size that it would normally get. Yeah. But he said it won't look badly, and he said, I'll get the best I can possibly get. He was very helpful.
What does the band do? Does it say something on it?
Yes, what it would do is it would be a memorial to and we could make a decision on what we wanted to have on it. And so he told me about that, and I said, so today I said to him, what do you think about if we did this in the spring, would that be okay to put the plaque on it? And he said, yes. He said, it'll be fine to do it in the spring. And I think it just keeps us moving ahead, doing something that's good.
Yeah, so we want to do, Ken is going to purchase the bench.
Yes.
And you would like to purchase the tree and the plaque.
Okay.
I like that.
So I'm not going to make a motion that we spend a specific amount, but that You're
Up to-
available? Yep.
Yes.
I would
no
move-
more than $400.
You can even come back to us later, but
I think it should even be more than it shouldn't be more than $300 because then he has to pick up the rest.
Yeah. Move that you proceed with the purchase of the tree in memory of Marie, and the funds come from our gift account.
And that we accept the $100 from the park department.
Yes.
Oh,
Is there a second?
a second.
I second that.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So I'm happy to say that I'm on the computer. And I'm happy to say that I figured out, I've kind of gotten into it's easier to get forgiveness than permission. I went across the hall. Is that Lisa? Is she the secretary?
Yes.
Across? Unbelievably helpful. She set me up and I started. So when they finally responded to me, which was a considerable amount of time later, I said, I'm already printing. And he said, you are? I said, yeah, I'm printing to the
To their location, yeah.
And he said, okay, that's fine. So we're doing that. And then Steve has been extremely helpful.
He is, yeah.
So Josh has kind of bowed out and Steve has stepped forward. And I just email him directly so that you all know we're up and running, and I'll start using this email address to forward to you guys.
Sure.
I need to learn maybe from you if you have a chance sometime. No, I just need to do things how to go on there to just like set up a system where it would be the Historic Commission and it's all the addresses of the people to send an email. Do you know how to do that?
No, I do it in Yahoo groups, Jim's saying, but I haven't done it with a town. But
Sean, I think, knows how to do that. Maybe.
Probably. We'll ask him.
See if you can.
Does the town use Google?
No, we don't use Google.
That's what they do with
What's
the
The
city.
schools do.
Steve's in IT.
Yes, Steve Burke in IT.
Burke.
Yeah. And I got a list of, so I can stop bothering you, I got a list of where everybody is and how to get a hold of them. I'm a ferret. I don't know from either Lorna or Elaine whether they got, this was one of the things that Josh was supposed to set them up with Facebook. And I have not heard back from him. So once I get these two things off of here, I'll be going after that. So, we're done.
Oh, can I, I'm sorry, can we
go
go
right.
back?
Yeah.
You thought you would. Back to the purchase of the tree and the plaque. You said, and to accept the $100
Donation
from the
Friends of the Park.
Friends of the Park.
Friends of the Park.
I just wanted to make sure it was Friends of the Park.
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry.
There's nothing to talk about tonight, but there was the question I was asking before the fire and police personnel came in. It was,
Bombardier went to school with my son. So
if somebody wants to donate something to the Historic Society, now that John is no longer is with us, just tell them to hold on to it. Is that the position that we're taking?
I don't
we
know.
can't accept it on their behalf.
I want to. Yeah, we can't.
It's something we have to think about, at least in the near future.
I think we really have to think about it because the fact that it's so chock full, and I got a call. I forgot this. I got a call from a man who I have it written down. His father was the state representative from here.
Robert Tian?
Yeah.
Bob, John or Bob, the two Tian sons. And his father was Bob Tian.
Right. But there was also,
We could discuss this later. Why don't we just move to adjourn? We'll discuss it in the next meeting. I don't want to keep everybody here. So I'll move to adjourn.
Okay.
I second.
Aye.
Yeah.
We're adjourned.